Hello and welcome to today's onboarding webinar for the Essential Digital Skills Qualification or EDSQ. If you haven't already done so, please put something into the chat box just to let me know you can hear me okay. You'll find this at the bottom of the webinar control panel at the right hand side of your screen. We do encourage questions, so please add them to the chat box. No question is a silly question, and if I'm not able to answer them today, I will follow up with my NCFE colleagues, and a question and answer document will be circulated with today's slides. This session will be recorded and shared after the webinar. Okay then, so you can see on the screen now what we're going to be covering in today's webinar. This session focuses on the Essential Digital Skills Qualification at Entry Level 3 and Level 1. My name is Rachel Webster. I'm one of NCFE's Curriculum Development Officers, and I'm responsible for supporting centres through the planning, onboarding and CPD process for NCFE cash qualifications, focusing specifically on the essential digital skills and the digital T-level. Just a little bit about my background. I've been with the provider development team since February, with a background of teaching ICT in secondary, then post-16 within a private training organisation and also in a college setting. I've vast experience of delivering and planning IT-related courses, ranging from entry level 3 right the way through to apprenticeships. In addition, I've worked as a quality manager and led CPD and standardisation sessions. We're also joined today by Luke Corden, who will be providing information on our portfolio of skills assessment tools that will support the Essential Digital Skills Qualification. Now, I'd just like to begin with a poll about your current confidence levels. I'm just going to launch the poll. So I would like you just to enter on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low and 10 being high. How would you rate your current confidence level regarding your knowledge and understanding of the Essential Digital Skills Qualification? Now I'll just leave it, give you time to enter your responses. I can see some coming through. We're at about 90%, a few more. I'll give a few more seconds just to make sure everybody gets a chance to enter those. Okay, then let's see what's come through. Now we've got just over half sitting at a 3 to 4, and then we would have about 25% at 5 to 6, and another 25% at 1 to 2. So thank you very much for your input there, and I'm hoping this webinar will give you all the information you need. Just going to try and take the poll off. Now the audience view doesn't seem to be changing. Let's just have a little look. There we go. Okay then. So moving on now to the qualification overview and purpose. So essential digital skills are more important than ever. So since 2020, we've experienced a world where face-to-face communication hasn't been possible, and therefore having a grasp on digital technology and communication has been vital really to stay connected. So the purpose of the Essential Digital Skills qualification at entry level 3 and level 1 is to allow learners to demonstrate understanding of and competency in the essential digital skills they need for life, including work at level 1. It will enable learners to engage with digital services and products in everyday life and work. And the minimum age for this qualification is 16. So learners who achieve the entry level 3 qualification could progress to level 1, and learners who achieve at level 1 could progress to a suitable level 2 qualification. So centres are responsible for ensuring that this qualification is appropriate for the age and ability of learners. They need to make sure that the learners can fulfil the requirements of the learning outcomes and comply with the relevant literacy, numeracy, and health and safety aspects of the qualification. So learners registered on this qualification should not undertake another qualification at the same level with the same or similar title, as duplication of learning may be affect funding eligibility. So if we take a look at the statistics on the screen and reflect on the past 2 years, with almost all interactions taking place online, we can begin to understand the urgent need to reach the 22% of the adult population who are without the digital skills they need for everyday life. Further statistics can determine whether your centre decides to offer this essential digital skills qualification. An estimated 9 million people, that's 16%, are unable to use the internet or their devices without assistance. 6.5 million, that's 12% of people, cannot open apps. 2/3, 66% of those online have not used the internet or digital apps and tools to manage their health. 27% of those in full-time education are concerned their digital skills are not good enough. And 20% of the UK workforce do not believe their digital skills are good enough. So adequate digital skills can have an impact upon social mobility. So there's a few good reasons for your learners to want to achieve this qualification, either for their CV or to improve their personal lives, both financially and in opening up new avenues for their social lives. So people who are less digitally engaged will spend an average £348 more per year on household bills. 4 in 10 benefit claimants have had very low digital engagement. People with impairments are 25% less likely to have the skills to access devices and get online by themselves. And people with an annual household income of £50,000 or more are 40% more likely to have foundation digital skills than those earning less than £17,500. 61% of highly digital citizens have used the internet to successfully apply for a job. So let's start at the beginning of the journey. Having a comprehensive initial assessment and induction stage is going to be vital, as learners may be starting their essential digital skills qualification after many months or years out of learning, and centres will need to ensure the learner firstly can enter the programme of study at level 1 that is appropriate to them, and secondly, the assessments also allow the learner to be able to plan their individual achievable learning goals. So please plan your induction activities in a way that fully assesses your learners' starting points and potentials. So initial assessments can help the tutor or the assessor to ascertain any special learning requirements, disclose any information that needs to be shared, and allow for individual requirements to be planned for and met. The new digital attainment will support learners with no or low digital skills. They will be fully funded, and a condition of that funding is that the learner sits an initial assessment to identify the level they are going to be working towards. So centres must carry out an initial assessment using current assessment tools based on the national standards for the essential digital skills, carry out an appropriate diagnostic assessment to inform and structure a learner's file to use as a basis for a programme of study, enrol the learner on a level above what they're being assessed and be able to provide evidence of this, and deliver ongoing assessments to support the learning, and then record the evidence of all assessment outcomes. Now, I am now going to hand over to Luke Corden, who will demonstrate our diagnostic and skills assessment tools to support the essential digital skills qualification.
Fantastic, thank you for that, Rachel. I'm just going to begin sharing my screen with you all in a moment, and then we'll be able to go through the initial assessment tool that we have here at NCFE. Would you be okay just to make me the presenter, please, Rachel?
Yes, just give me one moment. There we go.
Fantastic, so that should all be coming through now. You should be able to see my screen, and what I'm logged into is a learner view to begin with. So as was mentioned a moment ago, is a requirement to get your learners initially assessed, see where their competency lies in relation to the essential digital skills criteria. Now, our initial assessment will take the learner through every section that is required to achieve the qualification, look at their pre-existing knowledge in relation to that, and then also figure out where it is they need a little bit of support, and then automatically assign them a resource in order to upskill them and get them ready to achieve that qualification in full. Now, from initial view of the platform, you'll see it's very minimal for a learner. There's nowhere they can really go wrong other than pressing essential digital skills, start initial assessment. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It will show the learner a short video that just explains what they're about to do isn't a final exam. The grade that they get here is simply to assess where they're at and what support they need in order to achieve their qualification. So the questions are displayed as such. You'll see the main display in the middle, each question having a unique ID number at the top. And if I click into one of those answers there, you'll see I've got a progress bar in the bottom middle that begins to fill up and give the learner an indication of how long is left during that assessment. Now, also here, they have the ability to press don't know. So if they are perhaps, unaware of the answer for that question, they can make that evident within their results, which of course can then be reviewed by a tutor or an assessor once that's completed. So the learner will use the arrows in the bottom left and bottom right corner to work through. And once they've completed their assessment, as I mentioned, they will be automatically generated with what's known as an individual skills plan or an ISP, and that will have bespoke resources on based on that learner's competencies and where they perhaps need a bit of additional support as well. So also on this page for your learners, we have a section up here that helps with accessibility features. So we can make the text larger, smaller, and also we have themes to support any learners that may have dyslexia or colour blindness as well. So quite an intuitive platform for the learner. They get to do their assessment just with one click straight away from logging in. And then once that's completed, they're automatically assigned with those resources, which would then take place instead of this tab here. It would say individual skills plan for the essential digital skills. Now, with this being a demo account, I'm just going to access it a slightly different way. So I'll head to my learner's profile and go into this ISP tab here. Now, taking a look from a learner's perspective, again, they just click on that one singular tab from their homepage, and then immediately they're met with the topics that are required for completion, the initial status and the current learning progress of those topics. So you'll see some of these the learner is already showing they are proficient in, and some of them is required for a bit of work to be completed. And of course, they just do that by clicking continue in the actions column there. So for your learner, the platform is incredibly simplified. They log in, they've got one tab to start their assessment, and once that's completed, it immediately assigns them with the relevant resources in order to upskill them and get them ready to complete that qualification. So from the learner's point of view, their knowledge of essential digital skills doesn't have to be extensive to get onto the platform and complete that assessment and work through those resources. It's nice and simple and suitable for any learner that you may encounter. Now, I'm just going to log out of this demo learner now, and I'm going to log in to a tutor account. So the tutor's role is, of course, designed to support the learner and upskill them further with the assistance of the platform instead of actually completing the assessments and working through the resources. And logging in as a tutor, you get a slightly different display on the platform. We can view the assessment results and the resources available as a whole, or we can look at learner accounts as individuals as well. So if I go to administration and then admin dashboard, that changes the main display of my page. But as you'll see there, within this users section, it's going to give me straight away a list of students for teacher. Within that list of students for teacher, it's going to show me my learner details, when they last accessed the platform, and give me the ability to view them individually. And within here, I can view my learners' assessment results, overview their individual skills plan, assign them with targets of what it is you want them to be working on, and also assign them additional assessment attempts. So in order to complete those actions, you'll see we've got essential digital skills here. If I go into results, I can see all instances of a completed essential digital skills assessment. And if I go into results here for this learner, you'll see the comprehensive results that I get off the back of that. So you can see the date and time that was taken. I'm able to print this document and also save it as a PDF for reference. And I've got all my learner details as well. Down into the actual results, you'll see I've got each section that builds up the essential digital skills qualification. And then I've got a working towards level for each of those sections, because as you can appreciate, a learner may have an incredible understanding of how to create and edit, but in terms of their online communicating skills, it may not be as proficient. So we have a spiky profile here, which will show where the learner is working at a particular level for a particular section and how that can go up and down based on their individual competencies. So this will look different for absolutely all of your learners. I'm sure they will all have fluctuations in their knowledge regarding the essential digital skills. This is, of course, what then generates the resources appropriately. So if you do have a learner that has fantastic knowledge across all aspects, they won't be assigned with as many resources as they already have that embedded knowledge there. Now, also what you can see here is we can do multiple attempts of the assessment, and we can add a new attempt for our learner just by pressing that green button there. And it's as simple as that. That is now on the learner's homepage, ready for them to take when they next log in. Now, all of the ISP that was generated from that first assessment will still be there, and it will still be waiting for the learner to complete, as again, they may just have to access it through a slightly different avenue on the platform. Now, just heading back to the learner's profile then, we'll overview their individual skills plan and how we can support the learners journey within there and how we can continuously upskill them alongside the platform doing it automatically. So I've got essential digital skills. If I go into view ISP, I get a very similar view to the learner, only now I can actually go ahead and manually mark off some of this content or assign higher level content to further skill my learner. So within here, I've got all of the topics, and if I use these blue drop downs, I can see the criteria that is assigned to my learner. And for example, with some of these, creating and editing, they're already proficient at entry level, so I may want to assign that higher level content at that point. So I'd go into that blue drop down. I've then got a blue button here, which is assign. And if I go into that, I now have access to all of the content for essential digital skills, and I'm able to use these tick boxes here in order to provide that to my learner or take that away from my learner. So this is all the entry level content, and I can see what's already assigned from each section. And if I go down to the bottom, I have other levels, and I can see level 1, press assign now. That changes all of the content at the top. And I can go in and use the tick box feature to either remove or add criteria to my learner's account. That's completed, and it will then sit on the account as manually assigned as a tutor, giving the learner that additional resource to further upskill them. So the ability for support surrounding the EDS on the platform is quite vast as well. You know, you can assign additional assessment attempts. You can see how far they're coming in periodic timeframes, you know, based off that. And then you can also use that individual skills plan to assign higher or lower level content depending on what the learner needs, and also just have a general overview of the progress they're making based on that section as well. If anyone does have any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat, or alternatively, my email address is provided at the end of the presentation. So anything that you do have, feel free to drop me an email and I'll be happy to answer and support in any way that I can. Okay, I'm going to pass it back over to Rachel now. Thank you everyone for your time this afternoon.
Oh, thank you so much, Luke. I'll just switch the screen back. Okay then, so moving on now to the EDSQ content. So the EDSQ qualification at entry level is designed for adults with little or no prior experience of using digital devices or the internet. At level 1, the qualification is for adults with some experience of using digital devices and the internet, but maybe lacking secure basic digital skills. So it's important to note that these qualifications in no way replace or are they a substitute for the ICT functional skills qualifications, as these still remain live for you to register and access your learners for. So before deciding which level to enter a learner for, they must sit an initial diagnostic test to assess their current level and must then be entered at the level above that. So both qualifications are assessed by a multi-choice question paper and a task-based assessment. At entry level, there may be some tasks that need to be observed, such as sending a text message, or it could be a video call or making social media posts, as these are quite difficult to assess using traditional methods. So centres are responsible for ensuring that the qualification is appropriate for the age and ability of the learners. They need to make sure that the learners can fulfil the requirements of the learning outcomes and comply with the relevant literacy, numeracy, and health and safety aspects of the qualification. So learners registered on the qualification should not undertake another qualification at the same level or with a similar title, as it will be a duplication of learning and it may affect any funding eligibility. So this document comes from the Department of Education and contains the standards for all the essential skills qualifications and contains detailed information on what each standard means. So it's useful to refer this alongside the qualifications specification that you'll find on QUALHUB. This slide contains the hyperlink in which you can access once you receive the PowerPoint, which I'll send after today's session. So there are 5 units that make up the Essential Digital Skills qualification. So learning to be safe and responsible online, using devices and handling information, may be best to be planned in at the start of your delivery for entry-level 3 learners. It would also be useful to cover the communication unit before making online transactions, as learners will need to have an email address set up before they're able to make online transactions. You can now see the guided learning hours for each unit, the completion of all mandatory content to include control assessment is completed under supervised conditions. Therefore, the guided learning hours and the qualification time are identical. And just to make cross-referencing the assessment and the quality assurance a little easier, we've used a sequential numbering system for each section of the content. So the learning outcomes for being safe and responsible online are listed on the slide, and you will also find them in the qualifications spec in the materials section on QUALHUB, which we will cover later. So this slide's useful to compare the differences between levels easily. So for instance, at entry level, learners need to have an awareness of online risks and threats and to be able to use simple methods to protect a device from online risks and threats. And at level 1, learners need to be able to protect devices and data from online threats and risks. At entry level 1, learners need to be able to back up data and use a cloud provider and use appropriate language and behaviour, whereas at entry level, this is not covered. So using devices and handling information covers content including using devices, finding and evaluating information, managing and storing information, identifying and solving technical problems. And we can now see the content differs between the levels, with learners needing to understand the hierarchy and tagging for efficient information retrieval at level 1, where at entry level, learners only need to be able to open and read files and have appropriate naming conventions. Creating and editing unit content covers creating and editing documents, digital media and processing numerical data. There is more detail on the content of this unit in a recorded session that we'll provide a link to at the end of today's recording. And the online communication unit covers all forms of online communication, sharing information online, and also covers digital footprint and how learners can take steps to manage their online identity. The digital transaction unit covers using online services and buying securely online. At level 1, learners need to be able to make comparisons and be able to manage account settings, whereas at entry level 3, learners only need to be able to make purchases and submit a form while complying with verification checks. We'll now take a look at the assessment structure. So the assessment consists of 2 components. So you've got section A, which is the knowledge, and section B, which is the skills. So you can now see the percentage and weightings for entry level 3 and level 1 for section A, the knowledge. The assessment is the process of measuring a learner's skill, knowledge and understanding against the standards set in the qualification. So this qualification will be externally set, internally marked and externally quality assured. You can now see the approximate percentage weightings for entry level 3 and level 1 for section B, the skills section. So completing both section A and B will give 1 mark for the paper, reporting either a pass or fail. So it is similar to functional skills qualifications, where a learner must take the whole paper again if they do not pass, rather than being able to carry over the marks from one section, such as the multi-choice section, to another paper. Learners will be entitled to unlimited resets. However, they will not be permitted to resit the same assessment again. If a learner has attempted all live papers, they will not be able to resit until a new version is available. So a learner is required to resit if they need to sit both sections of the assessment, so section A and section B. If a learner does not achieve their assessment, they should have a period of teaching and learning before resitting, and charges may apply to your resits. So for both entry level 3 and level 1, there is a multi-choice question paper for section A, followed by a task-based paper for section B. At entry level 3, there are a maximum of 13 marks available for the multi-choice section, and for level 1, there are 17 marks available. For section B, the task-based paper, there's going to be 28 marks available at entry level 3 and 42 marks at entry level 1. So as previously mentioned, the qualifications are externally set by NCFE, then internally assessed, and the exams are sat under controlled assessment conditions. So at entry level 3, 85 minutes are allowed, with 20 minutes for the multi-choice question paper and 65 minutes for the task-based paper. In entry level 1, 145 minutes are allowed, with 25 minutes for the multi-choice question paper and 120 minutes for the task-based paper. So if a learner completes paper A in less than the allocated time, they can still only take the 65 minutes or 120 minutes for paper B. The paper must be sat in one sitting. However, a 15-minute supervised break is built into the platform between section A and B, which can be ended before the 15 minutes if necessary. So for section A, the multi-choice section, there's only one possible correct answer. So here we have an example of a question from the entry level 3 sample paper. The question assesses content from the Being Safe and Responsible online unit. I'll give you a moment just to have a read of the question, and then if you could pop your answer into the chat box, that would be great. So the question is, which one of the following is possible physical stress caused by a computer? I'll just give you a little bit to pop your answers in. So is it A, B, C, or D? I can see a few questions coming through. And I'm glad to say that you've answered correctly. It is option D. Now, the next question assesses learners' knowledge of using digital advice content again. I'll give you a moment just to read the question, and then if you can pop your answer into the chat, that would be great. So which of the following would require a user to use keywords? And of course, the answer is D, so well done to search for a website. So just moving on now to an example of the multi-choice question at level 1. So this is from the transacting digital section. So again, I'll give you a moment just to read the question and then pop your answer into the chat box. So when buying online, which one of the following would indicate that the website is secure? Yes, that's brilliant. I can see the answers coming in. Yep, well done. So it is answer B. So this next question relates to the digital communication and is especially relevant given how we've been working during the past few years. So read the question and again, available options, and pop your answer into the chat box. And yes, of course, the answer is D. So you might like to use questions like this as part of your delivery with learners, stating why the other 3 options would not be appropriate. So for section B, this is an example of an entry-level task that would be set to assess learners' ability to use online digital communication. So the scenario is set out at the beginning, and then the learner must download and save the phone for sale document, apply formatting to the document, use the cut and paste facility, resize and align an image, and the learner will also need to upload the completed document after the editing and saving. So this is a sample question that learners would need to complete in the task-based part of assessment at level 1. Again, the scenario is placed at the start of the question, and learners download the do's and don'ts document that has already been created for them. And at level 1, they're using additional picture formatting tools such as brightness and contrast, resizing, applying a filter to an image, along with inserting and creating a table, copying and pasting information into the table, along with other formatting tools. The do's and don'ts document then needs to be saved in a local storage, depending on how your PCs are set up. This could be on your network drive or on a PC hard drive. And a screenshot of the do's and don'ts document saved in the local storage location is required, in addition to the document itself. So the learner will be uploading 2 documents here. Now, this mark scheme here is just for the previous level 1 question. So it's fairly detailed, showing how the marks will be allocated if learners don't complete the task with the complete accuracy. So for instance, in part A and B, if learners don't get the right number of rows or columns for the table, or if they only place 1 image in the right place rather than the 2 required for both marks. The expletive nature of the mark scheme should make it simple to mark learners' work so that standardisation within the centre is quite straightforward. We have made a recording to show you how you could standardise the task-based section, and you can find this on our training page on QUALHUB. Okay, we're now going to move on to delivery in QUALHUB and the key areas you'll need for a successful delivery of the EDSQ programme. I'll also take this opportunity to remind you to ask any questions. Just pop them into the question box, which you'll find in the control panel. So now thinking about your delivery and getting to know your learners and understand what's brought them to you for this essential digital skills qualification will be vital in engaging them fully with the content and enabling you to tailor your teaching so that it's relevant and it will fit in with their lives. So if you've already had learners registered for the EDSQ, can you just pop into the chat box any information you may already have about them? So it could be anything to do with where they live, the age, any learning difficulties they may have, any obstacles to engagement, etc. So if you can just use the chat box, I'll just give you a moment or so just to put in any information in terms of where they live, the age, any obstacles to engagement that you might already know. Yep, so he's just popped in that there's a local to the area as they're being referred by a job centre. So if they are being referred by a job centre, what do you think their barriers to learning could be? So they could have been mandated. So you might need to think of teaching strategies to keep them engaged in activities. Somebody else has just put a mixed age range. Yep. So it's going to be really important part of your planning to keep all the group engaged. So especially if you have younger members of the group that may have more knowledge in certain sections. Somebody's just put in A lot of learners have not been in a classroom environment for a long time. Yes, that is another good point to remember. So although they might not have had a good experience when they were last in education as well, so maybe factoring that into your planning might be vital. Thank you very much for your input there. That was great. So if we just take a look at the different types of people represented in this slide, can you think of any hooks from the content that will help these people benefit from the qualification? And how might that impact upon your ability to engage them? So again, if you can just pop your ideas or thoughts into the chat box. Oh, somebody's put tracking health and fitness. Yep. You could help them find a job. Brilliant. And then somebody's put no dinosaurs. So people who have had no experience with digital technology at all. So you could have like quite a range of learners in your classroom. Okay then. So let's look at what a typical educator and learner journey looks like for the Essential Digital Skills qualification. So currently we're at the onboarding stage, and following this webinar and the resources that I can guide you to, you should be in a position to begin planning your course delivery and taking your learners through their initial and diagnostic assessments. So after you deliver the subject content and the learner hopefully finds it engaging and stimulating so that they can learn the content, they will then be ready to review what they've learned, prepare for the assessment, and then finally take the assessment. And the final stage for you as a teacher after your learners have their results is to review what has gone well with your delivery and what could be improved, and then use the feedback to plan for your next cohort of learners who may need further teaching and learning before a resit as well. So moving now on to QUALHUB, and you'll now be able to access vital information on QUALHUB for your Essential Digital Skills qualification. So the website address can be seen on the screen now, and this will take you to the landing page for QUALHUB. And if you select Delivery and Learner Support, this will take you to the Delivery and Learner Support page. You will notice an Essential Digital Skills tile. If you select this, you'll be taken to a central point for all the support and information you'll need for the delivery of the Essential Digital Skills. The qualification information tile will give you access to all the relevant qualification information and support guidance for the Essential Digital Skills by selecting the links available. And these links will give you access to the qualification information pages. Now, the most important documents that can be found there is the qual spec. So I recommend you always go to this document as it could be updated. So if you download and save it, always make sure you're using the most recent version. The version numbers will be noted on the bottom left-hand side of the spec. Now we're just going to have a little look at some support available for you. So let's now turn to the support that you can expect from NCFE going forward. So the curriculum team are committed to NCFE's core purpose of promoting and advancing learning. To achieve this, we plan to engage with you in curriculum consultations at 3 different stages. Induction is part of your onboarding to get you started with delivery and prepare you for any pre-assessment preparation, signposting to sample papers, and accessing teaching and learning resources. Now, I know some of you may have already had your initial consultations. We will be in touch with all the centres who do gain approval for EDSQ. At the midpoint, we meet up again and we can check on your delivery And we can also signpost you to any key quality assurance processes. So in preparation for live assessments, which many of you might have different time frames. So depending on your delivery model, we will book in consultations accordingly. And then your final review to discuss and reflect on the delivery. And the curriculum team will also support teaching staff through the onboarding period, where support interventions and events will be made available to access. And this could include onboarding webinars to get you started on your delivery, and support centres with an ongoing programme of CPD looking at topical and relevant areas of interest, and these will take place once a quarter. Now, to support your delivery, we have several learning resource options available through QUALHUB. So in the Teaching Materials tab of each of the qualification pages, these resources are designed to be used in all your classroom settings and can be shared on your VLE. So the first option we have for you is our freely downloadable scheme of work. So the 5 schemes of work for each qualification are written to cover each of the qualification sections. So the schemes include suggested learning activities, timings, additional resource ideas, including links to websites, videos, and online articles. And there's an essential starting point for any centre. And within this section, you will have access to the essential digital skills glossaries, what just goes over key words and the meanings. Our second option is to purchase a digital resource pack. And the digital resource pack is an all-in-one digital package of resources for you to support learners. And this costs £900 inclusive of VAT. Now, the pack includes 23 sessions of engaging PowerPoints that cover all the learning outcomes. All PowerPoint slides can be altered to allow flexibility for tutors to make more learner cohort specific examples, or you can add your own web links, etc. Associated worksheets and support materials for the sessions. A digital learner workbook can be shared with all your learners as a great reference point and a place to save examples of their work. So the digital resource pack is versatile and editable, and it's an easy way to support classroom delivery. And this pack, combined with the freely downloaded schemes of work, complete the set. Centres purchasing the digital package of resources can use them with an unlimited number of tutors and registered learners. So the one-off fee will include any updates and revisions to the learning materials if required. The third option would be our resource pack that does not have the workbook included, and this costs £120 inclusive of VAT. And this resource pack contains 23 PowerPoints, worksheets, and where relevant, spreadsheets and images to support in classroom delivery. Again, you are free to change the order of the PowerPoints to suit your learners' requirements. So for example, there might be a suggested starter activity, and it can be completed either before or after outlining the session learning outcomes, or you may wish to add an image or a community forum link or a social media page that's relevant to your group of learners, which is a great opportunity to provide local application of learning. A sample pack is available to download for either of the resource options, which is a good opportunity for you to review the sample prior to actually purchasing it. And finally, our learning resource offer is to have the learner workbooks printed for you. For on-demand printing for learner workbooks, you can also order binders to store the workbooks in. The learner workbooks complements the resource pack by providing a comprehensive overview of the qualification. The workbooks contain clear and engaging directions for learners to refer to later, as well as practice activities to help recap and recall learning. I will provide the link to QUALHUB at the end of today's webinar. The content The content team also welcome any suggestions that you would like to see in future resources, so please do get in touch if you have any ideas, and I can always put these forward for you. Now I'm just going to check to see if we have any questions coming in related to the resources. Just bear with me. Somebody's asking, where can I purchase the resources? So you can purchase these from QUALHUB. On the course information page, you can select to view or download the qual spec, and then a little materials, teacher material tab just below that, what you can click on, and it'll list the different types of resource packages, and you can select them and view them, but you will need a portal login to purchase them. Can you provide more information on the printed and digital workbooks? Yep. The individual printed workbooks are £10 a learner. So by giving access to the digital workbooks, centres are getting digital copies of these workbooks that are theirs to use for all learners as long as they need. So let's say, for example, you had 200 learners and you wanted to use an individual workbook for each one. To purchase them, you would have to pay £2,000 at £10 a learner. However, getting a digital workbook, it would cost £650. It's £3.25 a learner. Now that price reduces with the more learners you have. So by purchasing that pack, we're given a complete teaching set that is yours to use as much as you want with no further payments. So it represents excellent value for money. And as far as we're aware, I don't think there's another assessment organisation that is able to offer a full teaching and learning resource pack for essential digital skills at the moment. So these packs are not mandatory, but they will support a large centre in standardising their delivery and being aligned to NCFE. Okay, then we'll just continue. We have created some very short recordings that go over the content of the 5 units in more detail, with some ideas on how you could teach parts of the content. And these can be found by following the links on this slide. And the link to the standardisation recordings also on this slide. So I will send a copy to all attendees after today. Now, I would just like to do another little poll, but this time if you could just pop your results into the chat box. So how confident do you now feel regarding your knowledge of the EDSQ qualification and how NCFE could support you? So if you can just use the question box and then just put a number in. So a 1, not confident at all, or a 10, extremely confident. I'll just give you a few moments to do that. Brilliant. I'm getting some 7s coming through, a couple of 8s coming through as well. Brilliant. And if anybody has got any other questions, please pop them into the question box as well. Thank you for that. So we're at the question and answer section now. I'm just going to keep an eye on the chat box just to let you enter more questions if you do have any more questions. And somebody's put in, do we need a centre smartphone? Good question. So it is advisable to have a centre smartphone to ensure learners without smartphones are not at a disadvantage. So having a smartphone means that learners aren't distracted by notifications if they are using their own. However, it is possible for learners to use their own smartphone. what is the cost involved in learner reset? So one reset is covered with your registration fee. Then the cost would be £5 per learner per reset after that. So how quickly after registration can a learner set an online assessment? So once a learner is registered on the portal, it takes approximately 30 minutes for the registration to pull through to Surpass, and then the centre will be able to book the assessment through the portal. Do the learners see the marks for the multi-choice section before moving on to the second section? Well, for section A, the multi-choice, the results are auto-marked by the system for section A, but learners will not be able to see the marks. Once the assessment is over, however, the assessor will be able to see the marks. However, they'll not be able to amend the answers or marks in any way. And I think that's all the questions that have come through. So if we've got no further questions, I'm just going to move on to key contacts. So I'm your contact for support related to teaching and learning, support with planning and preparation for assessments. Your account manager will support you with any additional products and development. And the customer support team are there as a first line of inquiry regarding the portal, registering your learners and Surpass. Now, I've also included a contact email for our skills assessment team. So if you are interested in arranging a demo or want more information regarding our assessment tools, that's the contact email on the screen. We have to say goodbye now, but I would just like to thank you all so much for attending and participating in the session today. And if you could please take a minute to complete our evaluation as you log out. Your feedback and ideas do help us with our CPD offer. So that would be really good if you could complete that. And I will just leave on the screen some important links we've mentioned today, along with any registration links for our next CPD session as well. So it's goodbye, and from everyone at NCFE, please stay safe, and we will look forward to working with you again soon. Thank you.